Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. I'm really happy to have Jordan Rackie, who's the CEO and board member at Keyfactor, as our guest today. So full disclosure, I've worked with Jordan since 2014 and couldn't be happier for his successor to have him here today. So Keyfactor is an identity-first security solution for enterprises that helps to secure and orchestrate every digital key and certificate from multi-cloud operations to embedded IoT devices. We'll talk more about what that means in a bit, and also about the tremendous success that the company's had. So first, congratulations, Jordan. You announced last week that Keyfactor got a significant infusion of capital from Sixth Street Growth, and they're the growth investing platform of Sixth Street. But importantly, it increased your company's enterprise valuation to approximately 1.3 billion, which is a really remarkable rise from its 2019 valuation of 100 million.
Great, thank you. I'm excited to be here, Karen, and like you had mentioned, we've known each other for a long time. So excited to do this interview, and hopefully I could bring some insight to those that are attending.
Terrific. Well, I look forward to learning and having our audience learn more about both the company and about you as a leader. So you have this wonderful new infusion of capital. How do you plan to utilize the funds from this infusion to advance the company's objectives?
Yeah, thank you. Still working through that. We've got our kind of Q4 board meeting coming up in 2 weeks, and we have a new makeup with 2 new board members from Sixth Street in compliments of Insight Partners, who's still our majority investor, and then myself and Ted Schroeder, who's our CTO and co-founder. That collectively we make up the board, including another gentleman, Tim Harvey. So it's a new kind of recipe, and we'll talk through, with the new capital that we have, how we're going to put it to use, but we certainly will. And I'm excited about, the market opportunity for what Keyfactor is addressing. And so TBD a little bit, but we'll have a lot of clarity in the next 3 weeks or so.
Terrific. Well, I'd say a good issue to have to discuss at the board meetings. Terrific. Yeah. So for people who don't speak identity security, can you give a real life example of what it is that Keyfactor does?
Yeah, absolutely. So we support 2 sides of the house for large enterprises, whether you're securing kind of your enterprise network and everything that's being managed by your organization in terms of endpoints like devices, machines, workloads, APIs, essentially everything that's not a human that's connecting or sharing or accessing information still has to have its own identity. So we issue identities in the millions across these enterprises, and then we help them manage them through lifecycle management around renewing, revoking, refreshing certificates. So that's one side of what we do is helping the largest banks in the world, the largest telecoms, make sure that they have a fully secure environment that's way beyond just securing like human identities. So again, machine identities or non-human identities is what we focus on. And then on the other side, we attack product security teams in terms of supporting them to achieve secure things that they manufacture and take to market, whether it's the largest phone manufacturers in the world or the largest medical device manufacturers or vehicles or high-speed train systems. All of these things that maybe you take to the market in consumer fashion or even to another business, when you are on the assembly line and you're developing that technology, that piece of technology, for example, has its own cryptographic identity. And so our technology allows these enterprises or manufacturers to issue identities to them when they come off the manufacturing line, so that if you have to do like a software or firmware update, it's done in a highly secure fashion. So that's, without saying the names of our customers, that's what we do.
Yeah. So for example, you might embed in a pacemaker or some medical device, and you want, of course, for whoever the provider is, for that to be able to securely connect. Or my car, whenever it connects back with Volvo, we want to make sure that it's Volvo it's connecting with and not some third-party actor.
Or a charging station, if you have an electric vehicle, that connection between the charging station and your vehicle, just making sure that the charging station is who it says it is, the vehicle is who it says it is, and that's done through identification. And that's what we issue, is these IDs. And then like a pacemaker example is a great one, right? You get a pacemaker put in, if you need to do a software update to the pacemaker, you don't want to have to take the pacemaker out to do that. You want to be able to do it securely over the waves. And so we allow for that to take place.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's Keyfactor is probably in our lives in many ways that we don't even know about, right? For
Yeah.
just the average
That's a
Jane and
great
John Doe
point.
out here.
Yeah, one of the stories we tell is like if you're going to the airport on a business trip, the interaction from leaving your house, to booking an appointment, to getting on the plane, to logging into Wi-Fi, to ordering a vehicle when you land, to interacting with your hotel app. Every single one of those points requires identification to happen first before an exchange of information and access of information. And all that's done with certificates, digital certificates, and keys and certificates. And those are all, for a lot of those larger enterprises that are out there, issued and managed by Keyfactor.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, you've talked about the current growth path at Keyfactor to an F1 race, which I think is a really wonderful analogy. So maybe you could talk a little bit about why you think it's like an F1 race.
Well, I mean, when we look at kind of the investments we're making in R&D and what we're doing organizationally to make sure we stay out in front of the innovation curve relative to our competition, one of the things that I always talk to our head of technology about is, we want to make sure, first of all, we are and have been in pole position in this space for some time now. We were a startup for a while. We were kind of taking on the market. We've now become market leader, but we don't want to be satisfied there. So just because we're out in front, the conversation I have with my team is we still want to make sure we're having the fastest laps on the track. And we still want to make sure that we're not allowing our competition to close the gap. And so every time we're going through like budgeting cycles and talking about what we're going to do, like as we go into 2024, when we look at kind of our R&D roadmap and what we're trying to achieve, it is very much, compared to things, like a race or something where we just want to make sure we're widening that gap. And that allows us to go capture market share at a faster rate than our competitors. And so it's just one of the analogies. I mean, I think many people have probably latched on to F1 when they watched the Drive to Survive series on Netflix.
Exactly.
And that was a cool one. So now I went to my first F1 race 2 weeks ago, went to the F1 race in Austin at COTA, which was really cool. But I don't want to over index on that, but that's just one of the many, things that we discuss. And, the most important part is that we don't want to rest on our laurels, and we don't want to be a business that's only focused on sales and marketing or only focused on R&D. We are a company that has a very balanced strategy to our growth, right? We're not product led. We're not sales led. We really are a balanced, business with proper investments across the board to make sure that we, have a very sturdy foundation and infrastructure as an organization.
Yeah. Well, I love that coming from a former successful CRO moving into the CEO slot, that because sales is typically a central focus for many companies, and yet you have it as just part of the ecosystem. What are the benefits for the organization is that, and how do you keep the balance of all those different parts?
Like the balance of what? Investments? Sorry.
Yeah, of investments, and making sure that sales, for example, or technology would be another option, isn't
Yeah, I mean,
you're not maximizing any of those, you're optimizing for the whole.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to look at where your current strengths are and where it is relative to the market and where's the market going, and making sure that you've only got a finite amount of resources in terms of spend, and you have to just make sure that maybe 1 year it over indexes on sales and marketing a little bit, but then you'll see an influx of customers that require you to make sizable increases in your spend on the customer side. And I'm not saying we're reactive in that we do one not thinking the other will come, but it ebbs and flows a little bit, and who gets a little bit more budget going into the coming year, which again, budget negotiations are always a fun time of the year. So we're in the heat of that right now over the next 2 weeks as we get prepared for this board meeting.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, something that might benefit from an analogy, but I don't have one. Post-quantum cryptography migration. I'm going to say that 10 times fast. Post-quantum cryptography migration is a critical topic for cybersecurity. Can you explain briefly and for lay people what that means and how you're addressing the challenge, and how you're helping organizations plan ahead for the quantum computing era?
Yeah. So generative AI has been all the buzz, and I think rightfully so for a lot of companies, and kind of mainstream media. But I would say for security personnel, quantum is on the front page as well, and getting prepared for quantum. And so, the idea of quantum computing is a completely different way, longer algorithms for, people to compute, for people to break information, to leverage quantum computers to hack into systems. And so while quantum is maybe 5-10 years from now in terms of the viability of the breaking to happen, organizations like the NSA and NIST and others are already mandating that companies be prepared in a quantum resilient, quantum ready fashion starting next year. There's algorithms that are getting approved at the beginning of next year. So a lot of our customers are thinking critically about how do they transform the identities of the assets in their enterprise or the assets that they're taking to market through IoT manufacturing, so that those algorithms are long enough and written in a way that are quantum resilient to make sure that an attack from a quantum computer essentially couldn't hack into your environments. And that's a really a very real thing that our customers are facing today in terms of preparing for that. And we're at the forefront of that. I mean, if you think about our technology, we discover and find all of your identities across your enterprise. So we find the vulnerable places, we find the places that might, be more vulnerable to attacks. And we work with them now on thinking through a quantum ready strategy so they can go ahead and start shifting starting next year, replacing certain algorithms with quantum resilient ones. And that's just a huge resiliency strategy for our customers. The ones that right now it's mostly in like Fed and like public sector, also those that sell to the Fed and public sector, whether it's hardware or software, large banking institutions. But what we found historically in cyber is that that's, very often where it starts. And then it starts, from a technology adoption curve or just like a mindset and operational adoption, it will trickle down throughout the rest of, large enterprises and even mid enterprises over the next couple of years. So I really see this quantum resilient proofing effort starting now. And I think it's really going to hit a height and a spike in demand, a sustained spike. But we'll see, the majority of companies really starting to make that transformation over the next 24 months or so, 36 months.
Yeah. So something we could put in the important, not yet urgent category. But I think smart companies like to need to spend time in that category before things get urgent, and you have to be.
I would say it's so important though that you don't want to get to a point where it's urgent and you haven't been planning for it. So I think a lot of companies are already planning. Migrations are starting next year, and I think in 2025 is the best interest for most all companies to really have that plan
ready,
because we're working with the largest companies in the world, and they can't like flip a switch and change their entire strategy in one day. So there's a lot of crawl, walk, running and planning and iterative, improvements. And that really needs to start now. So.
All right. So heads up to anybody who has not yet taken a look at that. You also just released a new research report called Digital Trust in a Connected World, Navigating the IoT Security Challenges. Can you talk a little bit about the key findings that you had covered in that report?
So, I mean, a lot of the findings was that the gaps between the current status quo or the historical status quo of enterprise security is continuing to widen. I mean, we find that 80% plus of our buyers were actually using a homegrown, proprietarily built, piecing it together with Excel and stuff. And that was working, for some time. But as organizations become more modern, as organizations move to like multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-public cloud, like with Azure and AWS, et cetera, as digital transformations transpire, the gap between what was working in the status quo and like where the company is going is continually widening. And so these companies are having to make compromised decisions. They're either, the security team's either allowing the company to, if they haven't purchased us or, a viable competitor to us or something, what's happening is the security team is either letting the developers and the rest of the organization transform and move and not slow them down. And it's creating massive security exposure gaps and potential sizable outages that could be financially impactful. Or they're just telling everyone else they need to slow down, and your security team is actually becoming a bottleneck to the strategic growth that you're trying to take on. So, I think the biggest takeaway is that gap is just widening at paces that's never been seen before. So, we feel, very good about where we're at in the market, given that we do believe that it's 80% plus, blue ocean, greenfield
Mm.
organizations that have been trying to do it themselves. But, the idea of like, this is like a vitamin and like, this is something that's a preventative solution is really moving from that to more of like a painkiller. And the idea that, pain is really starting to be found in the
Mm.
pain of customers and the pain of prospects that we talk to, not customers, because once they're a customer, they don't have these issues, but the pain for prospects is
Yeah.
is stronger than ever right now. And unfortunately, a lot of companies don't move until they are feeling the pain. But we are well positioned right now to support them. And to answer your question, that was one of the biggest takeaways, is that the gap is just
The gap.
wider than ever before in terms of what they have and how it can support where the company's going. And so people need to move quickly to address that.
Yeah. Great. We'll put a link to that in the notes underneath this interview for anyone who's watching later or wants to come back and click into that. So Jordan, let's pivot just a little bit. I want to talk about leadership, and you are a first-time CEO. I'd love if you would share a bit about what led you to transition from the CRO role to the CEO role, and how you were selected for this role by Insight Partners.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, the backstory there is that I came up through sales. I was an SDR originally, which was really fun being on the front lines. I moved to a rep. I moved to sales leadership. I moved to CRO, where I oversaw sales and marketing and kind of go-to-market operations. And then I was just at a board meeting with our chairman, who's the same chairman of my prior company where I was a CRO. And after the board meeting, he just pulled me aside and said, "Hey, listen, we just invested in this business, Keyfactor. It's got a great product market fit, great technology. And I think, your skill set around designing a kind of global go-to-market and distribution network would be extremely complementary." And so that's where it came from. I guess in the back of my head, I always thought I could be and would want to be a CEO, but, I'll give my chairman, Mike Triplett from Insight Partners, a lot of credit. He's the one that kind of pushed me in this direction. And, I couldn't be more thrilled about it. So I've enjoyed the transformation. Well, my background is in sales. I really work hard to make sure that everyone in our company understands that I look at things extremely holistically and objectively. And it's not, like I said earlier, we're not a sales-led culture. We're, very balanced business. And we have a strong belief that, we can't just rest on the R&D that's got us to where we're at. We have to continue to invest and have the most disruptive technology on the market, the products that, will continue to deliver results for our customers, not just today, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And so, yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I'm big into organizational culture. We care about every single person in the business. We really believe in like a bidirectional kind of value chain between employee and employer. We won a lot of cultural awards, which those are just awards. I mean, they're great and all, but at the end of the day, like, you just got to enjoy the journey, and you got to enjoy the people you work with, and have a good time kind of, growing a company and at the pace that we're growing it. And at the pace we're growing, there's going to be challenges, and, you got to be agile, and you've got to be able to adapt. And so, a great culture is the difference in bending and breaking, I'd say, as an organization is going through the growth we're going through, while, facing all of the kind of external headwinds, right? I mean, I took over the business in the middle of 2019, and, 6 months later, COVID hit, and then we hit like inflationary times. And, now, unfortunately, there's been multiple wars that have broken out across the world. So there's a lot of, challenges right now out there. And so, we're just so heavily committed to providing a great opportunity and experience for our team. But we also expect a lot out of them as well. So it's a good balance. And, we're a team of adults. So we like to say that we care about everybody, but we don't coddle anybody. So, we've got work to do. And so that's a big focus for us as a company.
Yeah, care not coddle. That's great. I think about that on a continuum. You definitely want to be over on the care side. That's great, Jordan. Thank you. I was going to ask you about your significant challenges, but you just rattled those off.
Yeah.
But note that you and your team have led Keyfactor to an 11x growth over the past 4 years during all of that. So you mentioned your culture as a key part of that. Is there anything else that you would attribute your success to?
I mean, I think, again, we have a great product market fit. We've hired
Mhm.
amazing people into the company. We've got, we've had some good luck because I think our market and the demand for what we do is just
Mhm.
accelerating in growth. So, I can't say it's all like self-created. There's, luck that comes along the way. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think we're all in it together. We're a serious company that doesn't take ourselves too serious. We're an organization that, you know, manages any levels of insecurity, and the fact that we treat everyone with respect, and, have
Mhm.
a very trustworthy work environment. And so it allows people, when you have trust and respect, it allows for vulnerabilities to exist, and allows for people
Mhm.
to put their guards down and really work through the challenging problems that the business is facing as it handles the scale that we've taken on. So yeah, I don't know. I think we've done a lot of the right things. We've been proactive about, you know, the expectations of the business. We've left behind things that aren't necessary to carry forward. We talk a lot about innovation. We talk a lot about innovation and agility. And the way to do that is, it's not just innovation is not just about building new things. It's about not only building new, but getting rid of kind of the lagging tail that's not necessary anymore.
Sure.
Right. So, you can't hold on to things because of like just, personal feelings towards it, or whatever. And so we do a good job, I think, of designing a highly objective strategy that's not subjective to, just the past. And I think also when we bring people into the company, like, we don't do like culture fit interviews, because we don't want people to have to fit into our culture. We want people to impact the culture. We want people to change the culture. It's an
Yeah.
evolving culture. I don't want the culture of Keyfactor a year from now to be the same as today. I don't want to be. I don't. I'm glad today isn't the same as a year ago, because everyone has the opportunity to kind of add their own ingredients to what we're doing here. And so I think we all just embrace that. And again, we have a good time, building this company. It doesn't come without its challenges, for sure, but our team operates very much in lockstep, which is great.
Yeah. Terrific. There's no little amount of energy put into alignment at Keyfactor as you've grown into being a global organization. Can you talk about some of the activities in the organization that help drive that alignment?
Yeah, happy to do that. Let me grab some water real quick.
I'll
Mm.
do the same.
When an organization grows and it scales, and we've grown from like 80 people to almost 450 people today in this time frame, what we want is, we don't want departments to grow kind of in multiple directions. We don't want to create silos inside of our company. We want cross-functional alignment between multiple departments. So instead of growing like this, we talk about growing together, and keeping kind of that tight-knit relationship between multiple departments. Now, as we grow, it is natural and understanding that you won't have as much information about everything inside of the company, because
Mhm.
we've got so much going on. But we do invest heavily in like cross-functional meetups, where we have like monthly meetings where our team members will come together on like a big Zoom, and then we'll do breakout meetings, or breakout rooms, if you will, where they discuss and attack certain challenges that we're facing. And those rooms are designed to be cross-functional, so you'll very rarely see people from your same departments inside of these meetings. We also hold all hands meetings. It used to be monthly. I would certainly be lying if I said it was monthly now, but every other month, or at least once a quarter, we get together as a group. And I provide material updates to the company so that people could stay in the know. We also have a weekly newsletter that goes out. We've got like 16 different departments that are like departments slash sub departments. And, instead of having 16 updates a week, what we do is we essentially take four, 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 and four. And, once a week, the whole company gets an update, but it's a monthly update of one of those
Sure.
departments. So we kind of stagger that out so people can get, on a weekly basis, digests of about a quarter of the business, so that people can just stay current, and, be up to speed on the important topics that are happening across the
Mm.
company.
Yeah. So really putting some processes and tools in place to help continue to foster that sort of communication alignment as the company grows, because you're literally a global company,
Yeah.
not eight people working in
Yeah.
Cleveland anymore. Great. So Jordan, just to close, because we're almost out of our time here. The tagline for my consulting business is up and to the right, because that's the spot on the 2x2 matrix where we always want to be. Was there a moment in your career when you knew that you were going to be successful, when you felt like you were moving up and to the right?
I wouldn't say it's just one moment. I mean, I think the
Hmm.
biggest thing that I realized pretty early on in my career is that I was able to self-analyze pretty well and improve iteratively every single day and learn from the good things I do, learn from the mistakes. I mean, I've definitely had a lot of mistakes along this way, but the biggest thing, to move up into the right, I think it's not just one kind of milestone. I think it's every day just getting a little bit better at what you do and learning and improving. And, again, just being critical of yourself, not in a way where it's detrimental, but just really having that self-reflection and, making sure that, you're reaching out to peers and mentors and people that work for you to make sure you don't have blind spots and things like that. So, just having, a focus on, I mean, even when I was an SDR, I just really thought about, the daily process and how I can improve
Hmm.
it. And then over time, you look back and you're a lot higher up and to the right than you were, maybe a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So I wouldn't say it was one event. I would just
Hmm.
say it's, just continuing to focus on improvement. I've I've never had the same job twice in my career, so I've always had to, you know, learn new things, and it was kind of a trailblazing type mentality. And so yeah, I mean, I think it's just leveraging your resources and network and continually improving on a daily basis is kind of what gets you from here to there, I'd say.
All right. Thanks so much, Jordan. I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah.
And we've been here with Jordan Rackie, who's the CEO and board member of Keyfactor, an identity for security solution for enterprises. Thanks again for joining us, and take good care.
All right. Thank you, Karen.